Howdy, Immortalium here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Osamu Tezuka's Record of the Glass Castle. What is Record of the Glass Castle about? Record of the Glass Castle opens up in 1992, which I know for us in the modern day is the past, but when this manga was originally released, it was released in 1970, so this would have actually been 22 years in the future. And we're introduced to a mansion on top of a hill, the Fudanuki family's mansion. And it turns out that pretty much the entire family is in cryogenic sleep. And the reason for that is that the patriarch, Reizo, decided that he wanted to let the vast family fortune develop interest over decades. And by putting everyone into cryogenic sleep, there'd be very little use of the family fortune, and so it would not be used up. Instead, it would build interest. There is a son called Shiro, whose job it is to take care of the cryogenic pods and monitor them. And he decides that he's had enough of monitoring the pods. Instead, he would wake up his brother, Ichiro, his quote-unquote older brother, who's now many years younger than him. And when Ichiro comes out of the pod, something's not quite right about him. We eventually learn that being in the pod has degraded his brain, and he's lost all sense of compassion, all sense of humanity, allowing for him to do terrible, terrible things with no guilt whatsoever. He very quickly decides to sleep with his niece. He murders a brother unknowingly, and he kills his father, who he has had many grudges against. And once he's done that, he realizes that he's being tracked down by the police. And so he takes his niece and decides to go on the run. And that's how the story begins. And it's a very interesting story overall. As the story progresses, we start to see that the world has quite changed by 1992. And actually there's a section of this manga which is very much like The Purge, where it examines society's repressed murderous urges, which is quite interesting. The biggest problem with this manga, as far as I'm concerned, is actually to do with its ending. Which is so sudden, the ending is so sudden that I'm convinced that this manga had to be cancelled. I can't possibly see how this could have been the ending that Osamu Tezuka envisioned when he created this manga. But I can't find any information on whether or not it was cancelled, and so I just go under my own assumption that it was cancelled. But in general, the storytelling is quite interesting, and it does engage you for most of the story. Admittedly, the main character who we follow, Ichiro, is quite a soulless character, very remorseless, very uncaring. And yet he does have some interesting things to say about how society has progressed in the 20 years that he's been under cryogenic sleep. And hearing his thoughts and how society has changed is actually quite interesting. So with regards to the story as a whole, it's pretty good until its ending. With regards to the artwork, as I mentioned before, this manga was made in 1970, and so it's got that artwork that Osamu Tezuka was developing that was kind of adopting more touches from the Gekiga movement. That means more detail, that means more realism, although it never gets rid of Osamu Tezuka's original cartoony style. And so it's a combination of the two. I have to say that I really like the art style in this manga. It isn't quite as refined as Alabaster, which is another Osamu Tezuka manga from around the time that I reviewed recently. But it's still a very pleasant looking manga with a lot of very nice character designs, some really good panel work. Overall, I think the artwork in this manga is pretty good, even if it isn't amongst Osamu Tezuka's best. With regards to how Digital Manga Publishing released this manga, you will see first of all that just like many of their other Kickstarter titles, if I compare it to Yotsuba, you will see that it is a little bigger than your standard tankobon, which is good. Beyond that though, there isn't too much more to say about this. The paper quality is pretty nice. There's page numbers, which I don't usually bring up, that there's page numbers in a manga, but as I pointed out before, there was a period of time when they would release Tezuka's manga through Kickstarter where for some reason there were no page numbers, which I found very annoying. So I do bring it up whenever there is page numbers included in one of their titles. And beyond that, there is little to no extras. There's no afterword like there was in Alabaster, which is quite a shame. I would have liked to have heard from Osamu Tezuka himself whether or not this manga was in fact cancelled. So overall, it's an okay release with decent paper quality, but it is relatively basic. It is available, as far as I can tell, through e-manga, physically and digitally. Unfortunately, it's not released through any of the standard book vendors such as Book Depository or Amazon, so you will have to order it through e-manga, which can be quite expensive. But as far as I can tell, as of the recording of this video, the physical release is available. So overall, what are my thoughts on Record of the Glass Castle? I think it's a very interesting manga with a lot of very interesting themes about the repressed urges of modern society, as well as the ethics of cryogenic freezing. It is a shame that the manga has such an inconclusive and sudden ending, which is definitely a downside, but overall it is still a very interesting work to read. And I do recommend it to Tezuka fans, as well as for those who are interested in one-shot manga dealing with themes of near-future technological possibilities. So that's my review of Record of the Glass Castle overall. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.